a few weeks before the conference, I'll contact Rick or Doug and I'll say, hey, I don't know if you guys have picked a keynote speaker this year. I just wanted to let you know I'm available. And Rick's usually like, haha, no. And Doug is like, over my dead body. And I also, well, if we did, it would probably be the last conference ever, and you already killed 2 of them. So, when I was talking about people having fun at this particular conference, I don't know if you guys know it or not, but I got this picture from Kathy Poutney, and I don't know if you know, but Frank is an excellent painter. Now, I know you're laughing, but if you really want to know the funny thing, notice I said he was the painter. That's Kathy's foot. No, I'm kidding. But I do think that was the tile from the grotto, I'm not sure. But, and here's a couple of extra pictures that Kathy had sent me. I wanted to put this one in here because that's the coolest looking office setup ever to me. Because there's just so much rocks. There's so much Fox and so much rocks all over the office. And then of course there she is with the gigantic Visual FoxPro 7 box, and I can just imagine how heavy the CD was. So we go back, and we jump forward 10 more years, and I get the call. And it's Rick, and I'm talking to Rick on the phone, and he was like, hey, we talked, and we were thinking if there was anything that you thought you might want to talk about at the conference this year, throw us some ideas if you're interested in doing the keynote. And you know how you get like a wave of emotions that just comes over you, like a tsunami, and the first emotion I got was just pure joy. I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. I get to do the keynote. But then suddenly, there was this wave of concern and sadness. And I'm on the phone, and I was like, Rick, is Doug okay? And he's like, yeah, he's alive and well. We talked about it. So he said, how about if you just give us some ideas and give us some abstracts for the ideas, because you can come up with a title and not even talk about that. Like Fox Family, but I just spent 20 minutes talking about me. So send us some ideas and some abstracts, and if we like them, we'll get back with you. I said, okay, we're getting ready to hang up, and I said, whoa, Rick, wait a second. Have y'all talked to tomorrow? And he said, yeah. So the first idea I came up with was kind of a natural for me, and it was Geek Gatherings Celebrity Roast. Doug Henry. And the abstract was just plain and simple. It was like one sentence. This will be a brutal, quite possibly profane look at Doug and his many contributions to the FoxPro community. And I gotta be honest though, I was being kind of selfish because I thought this would be the easiest keynote ever. I'm gonna get up and talk for like 4 or 5 minutes, and then every single person in the room is gonna want to come up and take a minute or two to have a shot at Doug. But they said no, they didn't like that idea. So apparently the vote was like 2 to 1. But I'm not really sure if Doug didn't vote yes. And like I said, the early parts or test runs that I did on this keynote were kind of long. The easiest thing for me to do was take out about 90 minutes worth of Doug jokes. And that cut it down quite a bit. So I will do the one Doug joke that I haven't already done. I don't know if you guys know it or not, but Doug was the inspiration for the anger management therapist on South Park. You know it's true. I mean, look at that. There's Doug. There's Doug. Well, there's Doug. Come on. So, I actually wanted to play the video clip. But they had asked me not to be profane, and I couldn't find one that wasn't profane. So then I had to think of something else. And I got to thinking, I went to the website for Southwest Fox, and it said this year was the 16th annual conference. It was like 16 years. That's unbelievable. This conference is old enough to drive a car. And 16, I'm 53. If I lived in Alabama, Arkansas, Mississippi, this conference is old enough to date. And I kind of started going back in time, and I go all the way back to like 2004. That's the year they had the first Southwest Fox conference, which just happened to coincide with the release of Visual FoxPro 9. And I mean, you guys remember the whole history with FoxPro and Visual FoxPro. Microsoft merged with Fox Software, and it's like, well, that's it. That's the end of FoxPro. Microsoft's going to rip out the best parts and kill it. Then they come out with Visual FoxPro 3. Well, that's it. They're going to kill it. Then we had 5, and then we had 6. And I mean, we all thought, I mean, I know I thought 6 was like the end of the road. And then they came out with 7, and then 8, and then 9. And if I fast forward to like 2007, that was the 4th annual Southwest Fox Conference. The first one that Doug and Tamar and Rick had organized. And that was the year that Microsoft released Service Pack 2. And then they were working on the segment components. But that was also the year that a few months before Southwest Fox, they made the announcement. And the announcement was, there will be no VFP10, right? Now they did some hot fixes. I think the last hot fix, the runtimes that I've got are dated April of 2009. This is 10.5 years ago. So I got to thinking, like, here we are, we gather in Phoenix every October, right? Just a group of people from the FoxPro community get together. And, you know, why do you go to a conference? You go because you want to learn things. You go because you want to network. And, you know, to be honest with you, I work for Bo, and that started out of a conversation that we struck up at Southwest Fox a few years ago. And, but it always felt like it was more than just going to a conference and learning things and networking. It always seemed like it was going to see old friends, going to meet new friends, all while we're talking about our mutual old friend, you know, Visual FoxPro. And so I came up with a title for a session. It's called the FoxPro. I actually got the title from Bob Pierce, a conversation that Bob and I had last year at Southwest Fox, and we were having almost the exact same conversation. Well, why do you come to the conference every year? I want to see old friends. I want to see meet new friends. And Bob was like, well, they call it a FoxPro community, but it's really like a family. And I was like, yeah, you're right, because it does feel like family to me. So from now on, I'm going to call Bob Uncle Bob. I could have called him Brother Bob or Cousin Bob, but I thought, like, Bob's your uncle. Now, I got a relatively late start with FoxPro. Like I said, I've been working with FoxPro for like 25 years. I didn't even start with FoxPro until 2.6 for Windows. And I didn't even, like, you know, put my foot into the shallow water of the FoxPro community until 2005. Because one thing, I was too busy trying to learn FoxPro. Then I was too busy trying to learn Visual FoxPro. That I never really realized what a vibrant community that FoxPro had behind it. And but I did do a lot of learning over the course of those years, and I did a lot of online learning, like with Universal Thread, which is now Level Extreme, and of course the Fox site, and that's where I started blogging when Eric had opened up the weblogs on the Fox site community. Virtual Fox User Group, VFUG, and also you know, the Fox Wiki. There's a ton of different resources that have been out there all this time. And I know everybody that's in the FoxPro community, or has been for a long time, I'll put it this way, How many people started with like FoxPro? Way, way back. Holy cow. You guys are old. Sorry. Came out. Fatigue. You know, the FoxPro came out in what, 1984? Somewhere around there, 84, 85, you know. I was playing around with a Texas Instruments TI-99-4A. You remember those? You know, you had to have a cassette recorder and a little audio cassette that would go in, and then it plugged into the computer, and that's how you saved your stuff. It was on an audio cassette, and I thought I was Mr. Big Shot. But for everybody that really started early on back in the day through Fox software, the big thing, I went backwards, what was the CompuServe Fox forums, right? And that's where that community really started taking off. And it's something, you know, it's something weird about the FoxPro community is that it has been often imitated, but it has never been duplicated. Microsoft, when they merged with Fox Software, thought that they were going to be able to take that community and apply what made that community so great to their other products. And they failed, and they failed, and they failed, and they failed, because there just has never been anything like it before. I missed all of those days. I was never a part of the CompuServe Fox forum because I have Prodigy. And then also, I will say one thing about like the online resources. You know, I signed up for Universal Thread like years before I ever started blogging. And I would go on and read all the messages, and I would learn everything that I possibly could. But I wasn't, well, I mean, you guys know me. I'm a naturally shy person. I don't really come out of my shell. And so I didn't really ask any questions online. I certainly never answered any questions online. I guess I was what you would call like a creeper. A stalker. That's not right either. I was a lurker. I lurked. I was the Pierre Delecto of the FoxPro online community. And all the while all of this wonderful stuff is going on, and I really feel bad because I feel like I'm shortchanging the people that have been here forever, but I wasn't there. And you know, the abstract did say my personal journey. But my FoxPro community was from all of the people that were sharing information, whether it was online or magazines or newsletters or writing books. So my first FoxPro community was FoxPro Advisor magazine. And oddly enough, every single one of those pictures of FoxPro Advisor magazine came from eBay. But I loved FoxPro Advisor. I didn't subscribe to FoxPro Advisor because I liked going to the bookstore. You remember those? And I would go, there was a bookstore nearby me that always got 2 copies of FoxPro Advisor every month. And I would go on like the 3rd Tuesday of the month, and I'm there and I get my copy. And then I would go to the programming, computers and programming section, which covered an entire wall. It was like 30 yards in the bookstore of computer programming books. You remember that too, right? And usually I would see if there was any new books that I could pick up and try to learn something. I learned so much from FoxPro Advisor magazine and also Fox Talk. And you know, it's really weird because you start to recognize the names of the people that are writing the articles and answering the questions and things like that. You get used to certain writing styles of people. And it's almost like you create personalities in your mind. I hope you guys felt this, and I'm not just insane. But you get a picture in your mind of who these people are and how they are. I remember I've heard Tamar say before, you know, she was on CompuServe Fox forum and then goes to a conference and everybody's like, Tamar, you're a woman. But,
and I said, yes, I know.
Yeah, it's the same reaction when you meet Doug. You're like, Doug, you're not a woman. And, sorry, Doug. But you know, you kind of get a feel for these people. And I remember like with Fox Talk, when Will Henson was the editor of Fox Talk, I loved that newsletter. And the thing I loved the most about it was I couldn't wait to see the letter from the editor. You know, the editors know from Will. I loved his writing style. The guy's funny. You know, it's always relevant. And, you know, I was like, you know, I really want to meet Will one of these days. And to this day, I've never met Will in person. But we are friends on Facebook. So that's something. Of course, Fox Talk ended up being Fox Talk 2.0 and then Fox Rocks and all. But I guess what I'm saying is that I learned a lot of things from the FoxPro community. And the FoxPro community had no idea who I was. I was off in the shadows learning and just kind of going along. And that kind of leads me to the next section, which is FoxPro books. And like I said, I used to go to the bookstore, get my FoxPro advisor, and then I'd look see if there was a new book on FoxPro 2.6 or Visual FoxPro 3 or something like that back then, before Amazon came in and killed all the bookstores. And you know, you remember when you went from like FoxPro 2.6 to Visual FoxPro? Remember that? Was that an easy transition or what? No, it wasn't, was it? That was the hardest thing I think I've ever done in my life. And in fact, it was so hard for me that I had bought a copy of the Visual FoxPro 3 code book just to get some idea of what the heck classes and subclasses and properties and events and methods and stuff like that were. And I got invited when Visual FoxPro 3 first came out. I got an invitation to go to a demo event at some place called Micro Endeavors outside of Philadelphia. And I go and the demos blew me away. I was like, holy cow, I can't believe this, because I haven't touched Visual FoxPro 3 yet, and they're doing all this amazing stuff. I was like, I ain't too sure about the speaker, but I liked the demos. And it turns out it was George F. Goley IV. That was the speaker. But I was blown away. But I never really went to 3. I got into Visual FoxPro when 5 came out. But there was one particular book that was a lifesaver for me, almost a Bible, whether you were using Visual FoxPro 3 or Visual FoxPro 5. And that was the Hacker's Guide to Visual FoxPro 3 that Tamar and Ted had written. And I mean, I put that book in tatters, just reading it. It was a fantastic book. You know, it had like almost a little bit of everything. You know, there's a manual, there's a reference, there's the tips, there's the tricks, remember the bugs, and things like that. They did all that work so that I didn't have to. And they expanded later on with the Hacker's Guide to Visual FoxPro 6. And this, right here, where it says Henson Word Publishing, that's where I really started learning, when Will started publishing books on Visual FoxPro. And when Visual FoxPro 6 came out, it seemed like there was a new book every 2 months to me. There wasn't really, but it felt like there was. And I'll tell you one thing right now, I bought every single one of those books. When Will announced that he's got a new book, I bought that book. I didn't care if it had anything to do with my career and what I was doing. I wanted that book because I knew they were full of all the kind of information that I needed. And I want to go through just a couple of those books. The first one was, that meant a lot to me. It was the 1001 Things You Always Wanted to Know, the Kilo Fox book. And it was written by Marcia and Andy and Rick Schumer. And I remember when I went to the Southwest Fox 2005, I wanted to meet Rick because he always seemed like a really nice guy. I used to read his blog, and I'd check his website. You know, his logo was a lighthouse. It's like, let me guide you. And I remember, you know, when you're thinking of personalities, you think of who these people are, and I was like, that Rick Schumer, he's got to be one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. And I went to Southwest Fox that year, 2005, and I got to meet Rick Schumer, and I had an actual conversation with Rick Schumer. And I walked away from there and I felt so proud, and I was like, doggone it, I was right. Rick Schumer's one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. And I kind of know him a little better. But one of the other people that I got to meet was Marcia Akins. And the reason that I got to spend a lot of time talking with her at Southwest Fox 2005 was because she was a smoker.